Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sydney, and if you're new here, this is just a place where we can talk about true crime, spooky, scary stories, dark history, or anything else I got going on in my brain. So it's been a little bit since we've talked about cryptids, and I think it's well overdue. So I have my little tarot card deck of different cryptids, and I just handpicked a few, and we're going to be talking about them today, and I'm very excited, so I think we should get right into it. The first friend we're going to be talking about today is the Lishi, and the Lishi is a shapeshifter, but in most depictions that we can see, they appear as a very tall, humanoid type creature with ivory skin and bright green eyes. In this form that we see him in usually, he has a big bushy beard that's made out of vines and leaves and grass. But in other depictions, we can see that he is more of like a woodland creature with a tail, hooves, and horns. And as you can imagine, the Lishi can change size whenever he wants. He can be as small as the tiniest mushroom in the forest or as tall as the tallest tree. And in some iterations, he is seen with a red scarf around his neck and his right shoe on his left foot. The Lishi is thought to be the protector of the East European forest. And so because of this, he often helps animals migrate from place to place, and he also watches over the botanicals within the forest. He can sometimes be heard wailing if he knows that a tree has been chopped down. And for this reason, he will sometimes hide wood chippers and axes to keep the forest safe. Much like the wildlife within the Lishi's environment, he hibernates throughout the winter and he's most active in the summer months. And he can live anywhere. He usually is depicted living in like caves or old dried out stumps, or sometimes even they're seen in like little handmade huts. Sometimes Lishis are depicted as living in little like groups and little families, but most times you'll only find one Lishi in a little wooded area at a time because they are extremely territorial. They're known for that. So if you're walking through the woods and you see a lot of trees fallen over, you might have just missed a Lishi fight. Lishis are sometimes kind to humans, and if you happen to befriend a Lishi, sometimes they'll teach you some of their magic. And in other stories I read that farmers sometimes can make pacts with the Lishis in order for the protection of their crops and their animals. However, with all that being said, the Lishi is known for being a little bit of a troublemaker. If you encounter a Lishi in the woods, most times they'll either make you sick or make you lose your path. If you're in the woods by yourself and you happen to hear a familiar voice, do not follow it. This is one of the Lishi's most common tricks. It will try to use this tactic to lure you back to its cave, where then, unfortunately, your fate is sealed, as he's known for tickling people to death. There are accounts of a few people that have been able to escape the Lishi's wrath, but they come back acting oddly, and they're covered in moss. But you don't have to worry about walking through the woods all by yourself, because there are a few ways to avoid a Lishi attack. One way is to wear all your clothes inside out and to put your shoes on the opposite feet. Another way is to sing the phrase sheep's mug, sheep's wool. But if all else fails and you need a quick escape, lighting the forest ablaze is a surefire way to make sure that the Lishi is distracted. Now, if avoidance isn't really your thing, you can try to befriend a Lishi if you come across one in the woods. Of course, like I said earlier, making a pact with a Lishi is always a good option, or if you're brave enough, you can try to make him laugh. But I think the best way is just to give them offerings. A Lishi loves a good bread, some raw meat, even cookies or candy will do. I do just have to say before we move on, I love the Lishi. He has gained a very special place in my heart. He just reminds me of like the Lorax mixed with Groot, and I love him so much. Described as probably the homeliest animal in the world, we are going to be talking about the Lacrimonious dissolvens, or better known as the squonk. The origins of the squonk are unknown. However, we do know that originally they migrated from the desert to the swamps before permanently settling in Pennsylvania. This four-legged creature is described as having ill-fitting skin covered in warts and moles, and because of its appearance, our little squonk, he is sad all the time because of how ugly he is, so he is just in a constant state of tears. Get this little boy a Kleenex. He is so unhappy. And I know you guys were wondering, yes, the squonk can swim, but he can only swim around in circles because he has webbing on exclusively his left hind leg. So he kind of just does one of these. Like, you know, when you're in a kayak and you don't really know how to kayak, so you're just kind of, yeah. That's our boy. The squonk. So like I said earlier, the squonks are found in the hemlock forest of northern Pennsylvania, and they are only seen out at night, in between dusk and dawn, and this is to avoid being seen because they know how ugly they are. To add to this, they do not come out on nights where there are full moons because there's just a little bit more light than usual, and they're not going to risk that. They're going to stay in their little home. If you didn't know, there are people out there that have tried to hunt our friend the squonk, and they do this by following the squonk's trail of tears that they inevitably leave behind. And although this seems like this would put the squonk at a great danger, they can also use the tears as sort of a defense mechanism. They can completely dissolve themselves into a puddle of tears and bubbles. For example, one man named J.P. Wentling actually coaxed a squonk into a bag and captured it, put it over his shoulder, and started his long trek home. But as he was walking, he suddenly was like, this bag is a lot lighter than when I put the squonk in there. So he carefully put the bag down, opened it up, and to his surprise, there was nothing in this bag but a couple of leftover tears. The squonk saved himself. Our little man is self-sufficient. We love him. Despite the squonk having just kind of a sad life, he has so many loyal admirers. He's just gained them over the years. There have been two popular songs, one released in 1974 by Steely Dan called Any Major Dude Will Do, where he talks about the squonk. And then again in 1976, the band Genesis made a song just straight up called Squonk. Our boy, he's going to new levels. He's famous. And I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret, okay? There is an annual festival called Squonkapalooza, and it's held in Jonestown, Pennsylvania. Cryptid enthusiasts can come for themed vendors, speakers, and activities, and although the squonk is kind of the featured cryptid, all cryptids are honored at Squonkapalooza. And if you're interested, it's coming up real quick here. August 10th is this year's 2024 Squonkapalooza. I want to go so bad. I know I can't. I want to make a note here, okay? I don't have a little tarot card for our next cryptid, and that's because as I was researching all the other cryptids in today's video, I saw him. I had to learn about him, and I had to include him because I think he is so sweet. And that is our friend, the hoogag. He can be found anywhere from northern Minnesota to western Wisconsin and all the way up to Canada. He loves to roam. The best way I can describe this creature is like a prehistoric moose. He stands anywhere from 5 to 7 feet tall. He has unjointed legs, very like bushy coat and tail, but his neck and head have no fur at all. He's got crinkly little ears, and his most notable feature is his very, very long upper lip. The hoogag is constantly on the move, and as he meanders from forest to forest, he can be seen just kind of walking along, munching on branches and stripping the bark off the trees. Because of his diet, the hoogag is usually seen with his head just like covered in pitch because he's munching, he's crunching, and he doesn't care how he looks. He knows he's cute, he doesn't need us to tell him. When the creature does decide that he needs to rest, he has to lean up against the trees because his unjointed legs prevent him from fully laying down. A dead giveaway that a hoogag has been in the area is if you see the trees kind of leaning to one side or if you see them stripped of bark, obviously. In the past, lumberjacks have lived alongside the hoogags, and it's kind of become part of their culture. They would use the cryptid to sometimes welcome or haze new members of their camp, but although they kind of lived peacefully together, sometimes the hoogag would get into the lumberjack camp and start leaning against the trees to rest, and this would create a problem for the lumberjacks because they needed their trees to be standing upright until it was time to cut them down. In cases like these, the lumberjacks would wait until the hoogag picked a good tree to lean against and had kind of started to fall asleep, and then the lumberjacks would carefully push the hoogag over and transplant it to a different part of the forest where it could rest more peacefully. The tails of the hoogag would be swapped and shared during campfires by the lumberjacks, and although the life of the hoogag seems pretty straightforward, pretty easy, it wasn't always that way because throughout the 19th and 20th century, people were hunting the hoogag, and they used a very specific technique to do this. The hardest and first step of hunting the hoogag was trying to track it down and follow it until it needed rest, which could take anywhere from a couple days to an endless journey because this boy, he just has tons and tons of energy. Once the hunter found the hoogag and was able to kind of better track its pattern and movements, the hunter would have to cut notches into the nearby trees when he thought that the creature was going to be ready to rest. Then, when the creature decided that it needed to sleep, it would lean against one of the notched trees, and both the tree and the hugag would fall. Once the hugag is down, it can be easily overtaken by the hunter because, again, he has no joints in his knees. He's not going anywhere. The last known hugag to be killed was in Turtle River, Minnesota. A man who was in the woods came across a very young hugag who was stuck in the mud, and so he was able to kill the animal. Although it was a baby hugag, it weighed about 1,800 pounds. Just for scale, these creatures are fucking giants. And I don't know if it's because I'm not really into hunting. I don't care if other people do it. I don't want to partake in it, you know, it's just not my thing. But it makes me kind of sad that this hunting lore is part of this cryptid story because, I don't know, they're so docile. They're herbivores. They're not gonna hurt anybody. But these hunters are like, pa, pa, let's knock this bitch over. Again, special place in my heart for the hugag. Love them so much. I want to pet one so bad. Something that helps me sleep at night is thinking that the hugag have evolved since then, and now they maybe have joints in their knees, or at least they're able to better evade hunters. Alrighty folks, let's head west to the Funeral Mountain Wilderness. If you don't know, this is a mountain range that is right along the California-Nevada border, and it also makes up the eastern wall of Death Valley. And this is the home to the Morgellons explosimus, or more commonly known as the Funeral Mountain pteropods. These cryptids were first spotted by a group of Mormons traveling through the area, and they described them as being 6 to 8 feet long with a casket-shaped body covered by a shell. The pteropods stood on 4 wobbly legs that made them move side to side and backwards and forwards as they moseyed along the mountainside. The group didn't know this at the time, but these creatures are actually part fungus and part animal. They are considered herbivores, but because of their fungus bloodline, if the spores they produce are inhaled by humans, the humans are actually turned into Funeral Mountain pteropods. So these Mormons are lucky that they escaped with their lives, to be honest. But anyway, in awe of this sight, they watched as the pteropods walked single file along the sandy desert floor. Then suddenly, unable to stand this intense heat, the creatures seemed to swell and expand until they popped, bursting into thin air. After this event, the group cautiously approached, but all that was left behind of these creatures was a casket-shaped hole in the sand. Since this encounter, we have learned that the Funeral Mountain pteropods often live in higher elevations like fields and meadows, and here they're able to thrive and repopulate. But then suddenly, by some impulse, they feel the need to get up and migrate to the sandy desert areas of the Funeral Mountains. And although the pattern is always the same, the Funeral Mountain pteropods always perish. It's ingrained in their blood. And that is the strange and tragic life of the Funeral Mountain pteropods. Definitely the most interesting cryptid I've ever read up on. Thank you for coming on this journey with me, learning about more cryptids. It's kind of one of my favorite things, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video too. If you have any interest in cryptids, in cute designs, in tarot, click the link below. Go to this person's Etsy. I do not know them, but I will fully endorse their product because holy fuck, I was having so much fun just looking through these cards again, picking them back up. The designs are so fucking cute. The little things on these, so cute. I decided that I would pick a tarot card for us today just to, I don't know, have this leisure day, have your day be filled with this tarot cryptid, okay? And the card that I picked was Ghost Deer. Memories, unexplained wonder, and anticipation. Make sure that today you take your memories, you take your past, you keep it in the past, but you use that to better yourself, to make better choices, okay? And make sure that whatever you do today, you do it with a sense of childlike wonder, okay? I know it can be hard, the monotony of life, but try to approach it from a different angle. Try to bring that sense of wonder back. And of course, I feel like everyone all the time is anticipating the future. Maybe it's scary, maybe you're excited for the future, and that's great. But try to appreciate today, okay? That was so cheesy, but that is our tarot card for today. But anyway, thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you like what I do, if you want to see more content like this, like, subscribe, leave me a comment. What's your favorite cryptid? There's no wrong answer. This is an open discussion. But yeah, let me know. I do just want to take a moment here as well to say thank you so very much for 1,000 subs. We've had our ups and downs, you know, but if you've been here since day one, or if you just subbed today, I want to say welcome. I want to say thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hold a very special place for you in my heart. Okay? Thanks. It means a lot. I'll stop cheesing. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and keep being the bad bitches that you are. Goodbye, guys.